Hey everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day. I'm not going to waste too much time talking about why it's been like 7 centuries since I've posted, because this is a common routine for me. If you're not new to this channel, you know that I'm flakier than a croissant when it comes to uploading. So here we are in April, coming back at ya with a video about books I read last year. Okay, that's a lie. Only one of them is a book that I read last year. But anywho, welcome to the second Missing the Review Window video. This first one I'll link here, or down there, somewhere. But essentially, Missing the Review Window is talking about books that I've read, but it's been kind of a long time since I've read them, so I don't have the proper memory to do a full review on it. So I'm just gonna share with you my final impressions of these books. It's been, over 4 months, and I've only read 3 books. Congratulations, Sophia. Honestly, sometimes I feel guilty calling myself a reader. When am I ever actually reading, you know? Anywho, the first book I'm gonna be talking about is Educated by Tara Westover. I'm pretty sure I read this last year. I think this is the last book I read in 2018. But I read this because it was the selected book for a book club that I participate in that's within one of my scholarship programs. And I read this over winter break, and I thought it was so hard to read at times. Really, really beautifully written. I think Tara Westover is really good at writing, and especially because it's a memoir and because it deals with a lot of horrible things like abuse and gaslighting, and there's just a lot of abuse in this book. I've never been a reader who reads those things and handles it pretty well, so this was kind of a different reading experience for me. Yeah, I think what's really striking is that she suffers a lot in this book by the hands of other people, and she still wants to be a part of those people's lives. And the director of my scholarship program, when we were talking about this, was like, it's so sad for me to read that because she doesn't even know how much she was abused if she keeps on going back to them. And I was thinking, like, family over everything, isn't that the way to go? And she was like, being estranged with your parents sucks, but it sucks a lot less than trying to keep abusive people in your life. I was like, this is so heavy, what am I doing? But yeah, like I said, really excellently written, not only in writing style, but also in attitude. Like, the way that Tara Westover writes about these really horrible, traumatic things that she's experienced, she still writes it so gracefully and with so much mercy. She's never scathing in her writing, she's never really that angry, she doesn't blame anybody, she kind of just says what happens without judgment, and I think that's really, really impressive. This book is just wild. It's a wild, wild time. Definitely worth a read if it sounds like something you might be interested in. It's about, I didn't even tell you what it's about. However many minutes into this video, however many minutes into me talking about this book, and some of you are like, tell me what it's about. Don't worry, I'll do it, okay. Educated is a memoir written by Tara Westover. Tara Westover grew up kind of off the grid, not really, just in a really rural mountainous area where they had very, very limited engagement with the government intentionally. Like, she doesn't have a birth certificate. She has to like prove later on in her life that she exists, you know? Her family is very survival based. They're preparing kind of for doomsday, so they have stores and stores of fruit, and they do everything themselves and manually, and they're very, self-supporting. She never went to school, but what's impressive about Tara is that she had to teach herself everything, and she ended up applying to college, of course, to the disdain of her parents, who thought that was a form of betrayal. She ended up going to Brigham Young University. Religion is a huge, huge part of this book. And then she ends up going to Harvard and to Cambridge, and she has an excellent, excellent resume, despite the fact that she was in a family that really divorced the idea of formal education. I'm not explaining this super well just because it has been like 4 or 5 months since I read this, but very interesting read. I think it gets so much more significantly interesting when she actually leaves her family place and goes to college, because that's when she's kind of a fish out of water. Super interesting to read about. This book is just wild. I don't even know how else to describe it, but really wild, really interesting perspective. Would recommend if you're interested. Moving on. So the next book I read was, in my head, the most popular book on the internet in the latter half of 2018, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book had so much hype. Everyone was talking about it. They loved it so, so, so much. And sometimes when that happens, the hype can get too much and it can consume the book itself and your enjoyment of it. That being said, I did enjoy this book. I don't think it was incredible. I don't think it's one of my favorite books I've ever read, but it's really interesting. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, which reminds me that I gave Educated 4 stars. I just had such high expectations for it. It's about this huge movie star in Hollywood named Evelyn Hugo, who kind of comes from nothing but becomes one of the most glamorous celebrities in existence. And now she's close to death, and she has so many secrets. She's obviously married 7 people in her lifetime, and she chooses our main character, Monique, this low-status reporter at a magazine, to listen to her life story so that Monique can write her biography when Evelyn Hugo has died. There are some other storylines involved, but it's really mainly about Evelyn Hugo herself and her life story and kind of how that life story of hers affects Monique. I thought this book was so fun, so easy to read. It really, really flies by. But I also think it's so informally written. I thought the writing style was almost a little juvenile. I was so surprised that it was an adult fiction author because I think young adult fiction authors get more leeway in writing in a more immature tone just because, you know, you're writing to a youthful audience. But for this book, I was like, why is this at the reading level of like a 7th grader? I don't know, I was just expecting more from the writing style. But I heard going into it that it had incredible bisexual representation. Completely agree. There's also, you know, the main character, Evelyn Hugo, is a woman of color, although she kind of is forced to work with that identity a little differently just because of her ambition to be famous. But yeah, I think Evelyn Hugo is such an interesting character. She has so much richness to her, a lot of development that makes her who she is. I do agree that it has great bi representation. I was just really impressed, I think, with the representations of love and what love can look like. And of course there's romantic love, but there's also just lust and there's friendship love, and there's just so many different forms of it, and it's interesting to see how the different forms are different in power in the way Evelyn Hugo kind of prioritizes her life. This book in concept, really, really interesting. In execution, I was a little disappointed, but still a really fun read. If you need something that you can quickly breeze through, definitely go for it. Oh, I also will say that it's a little predictable. I feel like there's some twists at the end that weren't really twists for me, which was really disappointing, but alas, it's okay. Still a great book. And the last book I'll be talking about is Again But Better by Christine Riccio, our very own Poland Bananas books. This book has not come out yet. I got an e-galley through netgalley.com, which is a really great resource for reviewers if that's something that you're interested in. But anywho, this book comes out I think in May. I definitely need to fact check that. Christine says the release date at the end of every single one of her videos, and I watch so many of her videos, so I should know it, but here I am, not knowing it, so let's move on. It's about a girl named Shane who is in college and she's on the pre-med track, and she's just very dissatisfied with what her life has led to so far and how her college experience has gone. So on a whim, she decides to embark on this study abroad adventure that doesn't have anything to do with her career aspirations. And she kind of struggles with whether she wants to be true to herself or whether she wants to please her parents. And of course, while she's studying abroad in London, she finds new friends and a love interest. And there's kind of an opportunity for her to do everything over again. I am not going to review this book because I don't know how. I don't know how to balance, you know, being a booktuber who's reviewing a book written by a fellow booktuber. I feel like if I'm on either side of things, if I love this book, it'll feel fake. If I hate this book, it'll feel like an attack. I just really don't know how to navigate this reviewing situation, so I guess I'll just talk about it very briefly. It's not my favorite book. I wouldn't give it 5 out of 5 stars. I left it unrated on Goodreads, and I will continue to do so just because I feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how I'm supposed to stand on this. It definitely feels like Christine wrote this book. You know, there's absolutely no question of ghostwriting. We've literally seen her progress in writing this book, so I feel like that was never in doubt. But the story is very much Christine's story, and it's like a Christine story set in an alternate universe. She does a lot of really interesting things with it. She kind of pushes boundaries in terms of contemporary. I am obviously very grateful to have read it, and I support Christine in her writing endeavors. I think every booktuber who wants to become an author should write a book if you want to, and I really don't think that your success in being published should ever be dismissed because you're a booktuber first, because I think a lot of people have had writing aspirations since they were little, and because they have those writing aspirations, they also have a huge engagement in reading. But anywho, let me get off my soapbox because that's not what this video is about. Again But Better, not exactly the book for me, and that's okay. I'm still so proud of Christine, and I hope she achieves all the success that she deserves. But yeah, those are the 3 books that I've read in the last like 4 or 5 months. I'm wilding out here. I think the closest thing that I come to reading a novel sometimes is reading Twitter threads. But yes, thank you for joining me on this second Missing the Review window video. Is it shambly? Absolutely. Is it informative? Probably not. But I just wanted to share my thoughts and also update you on the fact that, you know, I'm still living and breathing. I'm surviving. Am I thriving? Wouldn't say so, but we're still here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll have a fantastic day and happy reading. Bye.